Hello, everyone. My name is Anthony Mills, and I am the Executive Director of Global Innovation Institute, and I want to welcome everyone here with us today. It is an honor and pleasure to have you with us. As most of you know, Global Innovation Institute is the world's leading professional certification, business accreditation, and membership organization in the field of innovation. And we have providers around the world we work with, and thousands of individuals who have our professional certifications and businesses who have our business accreditations all over the world. And so we're constantly working to help organizations develop their capabilities for pursuing innovation and delivering growth and impact through innovation. And as part of that, we host the monthly webinar series, which brings us to today. Today is Thursday, May 16th, 2024, and this is our May 2024 webinar. So what I'd like to do now is introduce to you our guest today and tell you a little bit about him and what he's going to be sharing with us. Our guest today is Mr. Alexander Manu. Alexander is a visionary who has consistently challenged the boundaries of innovation, strategy, and foresight. He's an individual whose insights have shaped industries and inspired countless professionals to reimagine the future and their role in it. As a celebrated author, distinguished professor, and a sought-after consultant who has advised Fortune 500 companies, governments, and academic institutions, his work has been a catalyst for change, pushing the conventional limits to redefine what is possible. With a career spanning decades, Alexander has inspired businesses and individuals through the ever-evolving landscape of technology, design, and human potential. His teachings and writings have been instrumental in helping organizations transition from the industrial age to the knowledge value economy, with a strong emphasis on the importance of imagination, creativity, and personal transformation. He believes that the future is not merely something that happens to us, but rather something we actively create. His profound insights into the intersection of technology, business, and human behavior have positioned him as a leading voice in shaping the interconnected world of tomorrow. His most recent contribution to this ongoing dialogue is his book, Transcending Imagination, Artificial Intelligence and the Future of Creativity, published in April of this year by CRC Press and Taylor & Francis. This work continues his exploration of the potent forces at the nexus of technological advancement and human creativity, offering new perspectives on how artificial intelligence can partner with human creativity to forge innovative paths forward. Prior to this, Alexander authored at least 10 other books, including The Philosophy of Disruption, From Transition to Transformational Change, and Dynamic Future-Proofing, Integrating Disruption in Everyday Business, and a number of other books he has authored. Alexander currently serves as a professor at Ontario College of Art and Design, or OCAD, a senior partner at Equilibrant, a strategic innovation advisor at Holify Labs, a founder advisor at SalesStack.ai, and a workshop leader at Wallace McCain Institute. You can learn more about him at alexandermanu.com. So today, Alexander is going to be talking to us about the richly augmented life, navigating the new frontiers of disruption with generative AI. And this talk explores the intricate dynamics of how these technological disruptions are not merely tools of automation, but rather catalysts for a broader and more substantial transformation. And this includes an exploration of the essence of disruption in the context of emerging technologies, specifically here generative AI. By its nature, this technology challenges the traditional boundaries of creation and innovation, enabling machines to generate not only text, but also ideas, aesthetics, and functional strategies that were once the sole domain of human intellect. By integrating these advanced technologies, we enhance our tools and fundamentally enrich human life, expanding our creative horizons and reimagining our potential in a profoundly interconnected world. So this is all important because we all have to chart some course through these transformative currents and the unexplored possibilities they bring of the next wave of digital revolution. So with that said, please join me, if you will, in welcoming Mr. Alexander Manu. Alexander, the floor is all yours.
Thank you so much. Let me share my screen. This was quite a thorough introduction, and I hope everybody can see everything.
Yes.
Oh, good. All right. If I speak I have a note in front of me that says slow because I tend to speak fast. So if I forget to look at my note, please let me know. I have a presentation in which I'm going to talk about a number of things and connect them somehow to the future and to everybody's understanding of how the future can be shaped. The main title is not what you see here. This is the methodology. My methodology in Foresight, it's entitled Dynamic Future Proofing, which means I want to future-proof organizations I work with as synchronically and dynamically as change happens. So I'm not waiting. I'm introducing the future in organizations tomorrow. The way we do that in Foresight, we asked the question asked many years ago, actually, by one of my favorite consultants. What has already happened that is yet to make its full impact? I'll reveal the name at one point. Because he wasn't known for this type of questions, he was known for management consulting. But look at what the question actually asks. What has already happened that is yet to make its full impact? So this doesn't talk about futuristic aspirations or utopian plans. It talks about what has already happened that is yet to make its full impact, which is strangely, interestingly enough, where the name of the profession Foresight comes from. It comes from the artillery word for. For means when the artillery, when the if you play golf, you will know what this means. If you mishandle your ball and the ball goes someplace where you don't want it to go, you shout for to let people know that something is about to happen, which in artillery it's called beware before. So the artillery people shout for so the infantry can cover their heads in case the projectile lands in the wrong place. So beware before is the idea here. The thing has already happened. The ball is in the air. My job when the ball is in the air is to understand where the ball might land and what will happen. And Anthony mentioned this, that I integrate disruption in everyday business. So in my job as a Foresight practitioner, I act as the equilibrant. Equilibrant is the thing that creates the equilibrium. So that is how I'm thinking of what role do I play in creating this future, which is a choice. Why do I call it a choice? Because it's an abstract thing, the future. The future doesn't exist. The future is a concept, and because it is a concept, you can shape it any way you want. They have two choices, typically organizations, when they deal with the future. The first choice is to hire a bunch of lawyers and to write forward-looking statements and to write a disclaimer. This is a forward-looking statement, which means that whatever we say in this report might not happen. And the future usually envisioned in this forward-looking statements is the organization on one end, the unknown future at another end, and in between time and uncertainty. And the uncertainty is taken care by lawyers with this disclaimer. But the thing about the unknown future is that it contains a lot of things we know. It contains what we call driving forces, the things in every culture that move things forward. And obviously, in China, Iran, Afghanistan, and Malaysia, the social, political, economic, cultural, and technology driving forces are different, which means they will drive trends faster or slower into the mainstream. So what we know is that the trends exist because they're trending towards us, and the driving forces exist because they drive the trends. Therefore, choice number 2, choose to make the future your path, which means simply, I know what the trends are, I know what the driving forces are in my culture, and in between those things, I have a choice. Deal with it as an unknown or give it a name. If I give it a name, that's my destination. All of a sudden, I'm designing the future. I'm desiring it. I call it the Internet of Things. The Internet of Things is a pure concept, but it's a concept that clearly defines what the thing is. It's an Internet of Things. 2004, this was the first report by United Nations that was called the Internet of Things. They recognized the future that was not there yet. So that is a very important thing. We can give things names. We can call it the metaverse. Well, obviously, when we call it the metaverse, it doesn't exist. So therefore, we make it the metaverse. And then big ideas allow us to create this desired future. In the past, the sight part of foresight, so beware before means let's paint a picture of the future. How do we do that? We write a story. The story includes people, place, object, circumstance. Each story describes things. The things we describe are services, products, and so forth. And these products start to be released one by one. We release the iPhone, then we release the App Store, then we release, and so forth. This is how foresight works. This is how you create a sustainable innovation company and an innovation strategy by creating a foresight methodology in organizations that includes planning for at least 10 years. So how do we approach this whole thing in the context of disruption? So what is disruption? So here's an example. June 2007, you probably remember it, the commercial release of the iPhone. Everybody remembers the iPhone was introduced in January 2007 and released in June. What people don't know fully is how much the iPhone changed everything. Well, it put the internet in everybody's pocket. Before that, we had something called a Palm Pilot. We had Blackberries, but Blackberries were just email. It changed how software was created and distributed. That's a big thing. It introduced developer-driven apps and changed how people work, shop, travel, and entertain in a massive way. Transformed the advertising industry and made Apple the most valuable company on the planet. Apple is not only the largest advertising company, the largest music retailer, but it's also probably the largest book retailer. People don't realize this, that because of Apple, Apple started selling more music than Walmart in 2009. So many people proclaim that the iPhone will fail. I have a whole presentation I give about how wrong people were about the iPhone. Not only it will fail, but it will fail badly. And the reason they said that, this is a quote, we predict the iPhone will bomb, it will fail because the design is fundamentally flawed. Well, why did they say this? Well, they said this because they didn't understand it. They understood it as a technology and not as a culture. So how could this radical disruption of the market dynamics be so critically misunderstood and misjudged? Well, they didn't understand that the disruptor was cultural. It wasn't a technical thing, it was a cultural disruption. So all of a sudden you understand it's a cultural disruption, and because it's cultural, it challenges you at the level of your philosophy of life. Because it introduces a technology that becomes you, because you cannot live without it. You are not yourself without your phone. It doesn't have to be the iPhone. It could be the Android. But the iPhone disrupted the market in two ways. First, defining the category for itself. So when we think smartphone, we think the iPhone. And second, it challenged the notion of what is value in a technology product. This is fundamental, because right now we look at products, which we used to call technology, as the most valuable assets we have. And, it actually performs like one of the most valuable things, and it costs like one of the most valuable things. So by disrupting this perception of value, the iPhone challenged everything philosophically. So what we learn from this is that new technologies have a unique way of challenging social systems. And we see this today with ChatGPT. ChatGPT, Midjourney, generative AI is challenging the social system to its core. It's a foundational challenge. Foundational challenges are things that challenge the fundamental organization of society. Right now in education, we cannot think of anything anymore not connected to AI. It will be totally absurd not to include AI in every single thing we do. So and it's not something new. AI has been the sort of a technology we use for the last 30 years, but it was embedded in things. It was in a sort of a ghost mode. Every one of you uses Grammarly, probably, and that's AI. Every one of you uses Excel spreadsheets, and you don't call it AI, you call it software. But what do you think that is? It is essentially a piece of artificial intelligence. So new technologies have this unique way of transforming values. Why? Because disruption is a multidimensional phenomenon. So this is the thing that I stress all the time. It's not happening in one place, it's happening everywhere. So you will see how this affects the narrative of disruption, how we talk about disruption, how we plan around disruption, how we deal with the fact that it's complex, it's volatile, has uncertainty built in, is ambiguous, but all of these things are game changers. Like mid-journey generative AI is a game changer in every industry. It works primarily in image generation, but that image generation transforms everything. There's no need for photography. There is no need for cameras. There is no need for photo studios. There's no need for real estate. There is no need for lights. There's no, and I can go on and on and on. So there are three phases in this blueprint of foresight. The first one is establishing the strategic context. And in this presentation, I'm going to walk you through all of it with examples. But in here, I'm just giving you an understanding of how the system actually works in a very legible kind of way. Micro view, what does it mean to you? And macro view, what is it happening globally? And once you understand what's happening, your cognitive change brings about cognitive transformation. I do not move to the next level with my clients if I don't feel that they are transformed cognitively. There's no point. There's no point in explaining the future to somebody who doesn't believe in it. So that's why cognitive transformation needs to bring about a cognitive change. Then we can plan the future. Then we can figure out what is the strategic blueprint about the future, who, what we do, what's the path, who has to be transformed, who do we bring on board, what resources do we need, and so on. And finally, once we have a context and a blueprint and we understand what the vision is, then we can move ahead and figure out how do we measure what we do. Well, we measure against some ideal situation. What are the desired outcomes? What is critical that we do? What is the minimum? What's the maximum? I measure the minimum because I know what the maximum is. So then we have, this is the plan. Very simple, very bold, very doable if you are willing to transform based on understanding what the macro view is. So the macro view is essentially, and you'll see at the end of this presentation, the two critical macro indicators: follow the big players and follow the money. Not a big mystery. Now, before I go into the main body of the presentation, a bit about what is a disruptor and what is a disruption. A lot of people use the word disruption, but they do not get to the root of what creates it, which is the disruptor. So when a technology changes the how we do things, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, that's the how. Once we have a Bluetooth speaker, we do not accept anything else. We do not accept a wired device. There is no point in going back. So transformation in this sense happens in 1/10 of a second. The benefit of wireless technology is obvious in 1/10 of a second. So from MP3 compression and players to all the other formats of data encoding, the disruptor, which was data compression, became the disruption. So in some cases, the disruptor and the disruption are the same thing. So data compression became online streaming. Without data compression, you don't have any Netflix. Can you imagine a world without Netflix? I don't know. I'm a heavy user of Netflix. So then you remember this 2003 device, say hello to the iPod, 1,000 songs in your pocket. The first question was, who needs 1,000 songs? Second question was, who has 1,000 songs? But in the end, we embraced it. And the disruptor, which is a technology, becomes a behavior, and that is the disruption. So people using that technology are the disruption. People using technology are the invention. So let's go now to the strategic context. Where are we today? So I'm going to walk you through where we are today on the same planogram as I showed you before. Context, vision, and metrics. We are in what we call an innovation moment. Innovation objects create innovation moments. Innovation objects are in the center, that red dot. The innovation object is a network society, is the results in cloud consumers. So network society is the fact that we are all network, and because of that, we are consuming things on the cloud. This is fundamentally different than anything we did in the past. And this innovation object is possible because of technology that we created, technology which in turn became amplified, and the amplification results in more technology or behavior, which results in more technology and behavior, which essentially is intensifying the impact of this technology. Once we have impact intensification, we have another phase in which all of these intensified impacts become markets. And that we call market maximization. And this is where we are today. As of January 2004, this is how recent the map is. So I do it in January every year because of the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas. So I take what is introduced there and I try to understand what are the new behaviors that will be adopted. So essentially from that technology in the center, which happened 25 years ago, some of it, or 20 years ago, some of them are new, some of them are old, we are here right now. So what has already happened that is yet to make its full impact? Well, January 2024, Rabbit 1. Are you familiar with this device? So this device is what we call a large action model. This device replaces every device you have, replaces your phone, replaces all your apps. You just talk to it and it does everything. A large action model is similar to a large language model. So instead of having a language, you have actions. So you can tell this device, book me a plane to Budapest and book me a hotel for 5 days, and it does it. So large action models are AI systems capable of processing and generating complex actions. They integrate language, image recognition, and decision. They impact employment because they automate complex tasks and displace human roles. Before this presentation, I had a little chat with Anthony, and I introduced him to a thing I'm working with, which does exactly this. It's an AI that reminds you of the movie Her. It does predictive analytics. It can do obviously creative stuff. It can run a lot of business tasks. It can automate a lot of stuff that is complex. So now two questions. Who becomes obsolete? And I can list a lot of stuff. And what becomes obsolete? So what becomes obsolete is smart speakers, voice assistants, Amazon Echo, Google Nest, Apple, and so on. Smartphones, uses for quick tasks, become obsolete because essentially what this does, it unifies all your apps into a voice-activated device. It obsolesces certain wearable technology, conventional remote controls. Every simple task-specific app and gadget is obsolete. So all of a sudden, you realize a single device that costs $600, I think. It was introduced in January. It was released about a month ago. There were 10,000 ordered in the first run. So all of a sudden, this is transforming in parallel with other things, humane AI and so on. There are many other devices competing for the same space. So now that I know this is coming, because it has already happened, what is my blueprint? What do I do? Well, so now I can plan for the richly augmented life, which is the title of this presentation. How do I plan for it? Well, I'm going to create a couple of stories. First, I'm going to explain what is the disruptor in generative AI. What does it disrupt? Well, first of all, it revolutionizes art and design. Secondly, streamlines prototyping and concept visualization. I had a job for a major fashion retailer creator last year, actually top 2 fashion people on the planet, to reimagine fashion in 2035, luxury fashion. And how would I build the prototypes like this one This took me seconds. You'll see a couple of more examples. Rapid iterations are a bridge to a new reality. So now I can create things in a fast way by visualizing them. And that's why I call this presentation the richly augmented life. And an aesthetic of the future in which less is not more anymore. If you are not familiar with the expression less is more, this is a design dictum for the last 70 years. Less was more because we needed less because we cannot blow mold or injection mold more. In other words, it's very hard to take anything out of a molding machine that looks like this, but it's very easy to 3D print it. So we will see and witness a radical new aesthetic. A radical new aesthetic because now things are possible and desirable. And we'll be exploring things that we've never explored before because we couldn't make them. Now we can visualize them, we can make them, and we can use them in completely new materials. So this visualization and the generative technology democratizes design because I can create things on demand in a way in which I couldn't do before. I can create the shapes quick. I can 3D print them on demand without wasting any resources. And that's what I call the maximization of creativity. I didn't even know I wanted this image until I created it. Now, is this high fashion? I don't know. But it's something that's worth exploring because it's very interesting in understanding what is the material, how do I get here? So essentially, I'm reverse engineering design. I'm going to the form first and the function later. This is a high-end fashion apparel made out of discarded socks. To create a prototype of something like this would have taken months. To photograph it would have been expensive. In this case, it was just a good prompt and Midjourney version 2. This was a year and a half ago, right at the beginnings of Midjourney. And that's what technology is able to do right now. Because technology can actually create and generate at the same time. So I call this creative generativity. In other words, if you understand how to use it as a collaborator, not as a tool, and that's the main difference right now, you can create with generative capacity. Many examples, I have lots and lots of examples. So right now, the scenario-based design and innovation have transformed because now I can show it. I can show you a picture instead of painting a picture with words. And the picture here will be Paris with this transportation. So I can combine old and new, and I can explore the emerging technology of the future in the context of the present in a way I couldn't do it before, in a very sustainable way as well. So I call this thing smart everything. So imagine a world in which everything becomes smart. Richly augmented life, smart living city, graphene buildings, essentially self-sufficient buildings that are covered with graphene, thinnest material, most resistant material, most energy conductive material, you know. So I can start imagining vertical gardens in Paris without building it, understanding how would it impact an existing landscape, how augmented transportation might look in the context of what we have already. Once we have defined what the battery power requirements are, and that's where the main focus of science investigation goes into right now in nuclear fusion and power. Well, now I can redefine what is a smart home, what is a smart everything. How do I create new materials? How do I 3D print food with intense flavor? Totally doable, totally done right now, and not very expensive. Intensify flavor, and that's why I use molecular gastronomy, because I can actually intensify flavor into very, very small bites. And you will see all these images, obviously created with AI, how smart furniture can adapt to the human body, how furniture can move by itself and shape itself, organize itself into a space. Some of you might have a Roomba vacuum cleaner and know what I'm talking about when we're looking at smart. How technology is reshaping work is obvious in our presentation today because we are remote. So how about the wearable office? Why not wear all the devices that you need to conduct normal business, like we're doing right now. Augmented retail, as much as retail is becoming online, it will also become something on demand at the corner of the street. 3D printing is happening already in many places around the world. A lot of stores in Finland, for example, have 3D printers. So the quantified self, we see this movement beyond wellness in which people are tracking every move they make. I see a future in regenerative medicine because we are actually much more proactive in understanding what the human body needs to regenerate itself. And regenerative technology is a very hot item right now. Wearables everywhere. Wearables are things that are now easy to make because of 3D printing. I'm showing you a number of examples. Implantables, Neuralink is one such implantable, but there are many other implantables. And once you understand the power of an implant in reshaping your life and giving you a new chance, it's phenomenal. I have an implant, so I can speak from personal experience. I have a spinal cord stimulator. Preemptive dentistry, which is essentially something that is proactive and allows you to regenerate everything that is bacterially attacked in your mouth. Same thing with eye care. You can do proactive and regenerative medicine. I'm showing you a couple of examples of things that can be explored. Duality right now, it's digital twins is what is used right now in medicine to understand the symptoms of a patient which is not present. Apparel that is actually making you feel much better. And we have exoskeletons. We have people being able to walk that were never able to walk before. Immersive travel, obviously, is happening right now with augmented reality on the phone. You can actually look at your phone and tell stories about the place you are in. Museums are using this right now. But any number of companies have this kind of glasses that tell you much more stories, many more stories. Immersive learning. So we are seeing this technology augment and transform the educational field by immersing students into experiences that were never possible before. Holographic learning is one example. Why not see it in 3 dimensions when you can? So what does this mean? Where do we go from here? So here is the definition of foresight that I started with. So foresight, beware before. So beware before is we understand what's going to happen because the technology is here. All we need to do is paint a picture, the sight part, paint a picture of how does this technology become usable by us and how ready do we have to be. So here's an example of being ready or not being ready, or an example of reading a signal or not reading a signal. Because essentially these things are used to be called weak signals, these technologies that show up. So I use the example of Christopher Columbus, not a very popular example these days, but historically accurate. He lands and the people that he meets are people that don't recognize his danger. And essentially, they don't understand that any part is a manifestation of the whole and not just a component of it. In other words, if you understood, Goethe said this, if you understood that any part actually is a manifestation of something much bigger, then you have to understand what is the much bigger thing that generative AI is a part of. So then how do we do this? Well, we look at the landing of Christopher Columbus with 3 guys, and then we understand that if you unfold his story without him telling you anything, you can deduct he comes from someplace. And the someplace is the other 3 boats. And beyond the horizon, there are other boats like it. And beyond that horizon, there are other things like it. And you start multiplying these things, and before you know it, you understand that the map might look like this, and you might be able to strategically prepare yourself for something like this if you understand it. But if you think this is a multi-phase event, you are right. But the multi-phase event happens right now with much faster with the last phase, because the thing that you need to prepare for is not Columbus, Facebook, iPhone, Apple Watch, YouTube, App Store, Snapchat, so on. When you see this thing showing up, you have to assume this. So you have to be ready for absolutely the worst. And how do we get ready there? Well, what's inevitable? Well, there's a technology called cross-impact analysis, a methodology. It essentially tells you that events are probable because they are conditioned by other events. So if probability one happens, there's a 50% chance of probability two. And if that one happens, there is a 75% chance of probability three. And if that happens, there's a 100% chance of probability four. So Christopher Columbus happening is a 100% chance that the whole thing will be colonized. So how do we create new value in this context? Well, follow the money, understand where the money is right now. And if the money is in generative AI, then this is where the value is. And follow the big players, same thing. It doesn't take a genius to understand that Microsoft invested in OpenAI because OpenAI is exactly what it is a source of intelligence, creating generative products, ChatGPT being one of them, and many, many more. So the future is not an accident. The future is a choice. One more thing, every image here was generated by Midjourney, but the text is all original. Nothing ChatGPT in here. So thank you very much. I'm eager for your questions.
Thank you so much, Alexander. And that was incredible, insight, and very, very insightful. And I appreciate that. So I would invite anyone who has questions, feel free to put your questions into the chat box or unmute yourself and ask questions. We'd like to have a little bit of conversation around all this and get your questions and thoughts on this as well. So to kick that off, I always have questions too. So let me ask you this. I kind of look at where we are in this journey on generative AI right now, and I think, yeah, it's the early stages, because to me, when something has become like mainstream, it becomes transparent to us. So, for example, if I want to do a Google search, I don't have to go sign up for Google and create an account and all that. I just go to Google and I do a search. It's a very transparent activity. But right now, where we are with OpenAI or Midjourney, I got to go create an account and establish all this, and it's just not embedded. Now that is changing. We're starting to see generative AI embedded into search or embedded into all kinds of other platforms. But I think to me, that's like where it needs to be. It needs to become transparent, a transparent part of everything we do. I'd love to hear your opinion about that, and your thoughts on that.
Well, right now you have two types of accounts in, let's say, ChatGPT. You have free accounts, which are actually working really well, like GPT 3.5, which is faster than 4. And then you have GPT-4, which you pay for, or GPT Plus, I think. Same thing with Midjourney. Midjourney initially was free, and you have a number of generative images you can create, and then it was a subscription. I think I don't have a problem with a per subscription. I find it very simple to use. But again, I'm technology. I'm a technology addict. So for me, it's a normal thing to do, right? To become a member or to subscribe to a website, all that stuff is normal. So I don't see that as being an obstacle. With all the obstacles that you mentioned, which means registration and so on, ChatGPT was the fastest technology adoption ever. So the fastest technology ever in the history of technology. You froze. Is everybody else hearing me?
Oh. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but
my video just froze. You'll have to forgive that. The camera's froze. Continue going though.
Yeah. So the idea is that GPT-4 was extremely fast in adoption, like 2 months, millions and millions, hundreds of millions of people, which tells you that the value was transparent immediately. So you mentioned transparency. For me, what's important in transparency is the value embedded in something transparent to people, which means, is it clear why would I use it? And the value is clear. So for me, that is a no-brainer that technology will start to dominate. I find it silly that we have countermeasures in terms of GPT-0. Companies are trying to figure out, have I used GPT in creating a document? That's irrelevant. It's like asking people, have you used Excel spreadsheets? the important thing about GPT, about generative stuff that people need to understand, and I talk about it extensively in my book, it has three components. Human actions are bound by these three things. Intent. The intent is human. The articulation is human. The manifestation is machine. It's exactly the same intent as I have when I use Excel spreadsheets to generate a result. My intent is to know the result. My intent when I write something is to write a bunch of ideas on a piece of paper, and then I can give GPT-4 the prompt, please rephrase this. Well, rephrasing is not exactly a rephrasing of the ideas. It's not a reframing. It's a rephrasing. So a lot of people think that ideas are the same thing as words. No, they're not the same things. So GPT-4 doesn't create ideas, it creates words. I'm done. Anthony, are you still with me?
I'm back.
I see you now in a different screen.
Yes, sorry. Zoom was having a bad attitude.
Yeah.
That was an insightful answer, and I appreciate that. Let's see. Do we have some other questions? The people were asking about your book.
Which one? I got one
I
right
guess
here.
the transcending imagination.
Yes.
I see the link there. Thank you, Barbara, for placing that.
Oh, nice. Thank you so much.
Yes, and so Walid had the question: what would AI say about the future of work? So I'd like to hear your thoughts on that.
Oh, I talk to AI every day. You want me to ask AI to tell us this? That'll be a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let me share my screen. And let's, one second, let's ask AI, because I think that's since we are here and we have AI, let me just open her up. All right, she's all open up in here. Again, let me just share my screen now. So, okay. So someone is a creation of Holofy Labs.
Welcome back. What's on your mind today?
I'm here giving a presentation to an international audience, and you are being taped, and everybody can see you. The question that people have is, what is the future of work in the context of artificial intelligence?
That's an exciting question, and I'm thrilled to be part of this presentation. The future of work in the context of artificial intelligence, AI, is a fascinating and multifaceted topic. Let's dive into it. Hashtag the future of work with AI. 1, automation of repetitive tasks, ****.
Okay, let me stop you right now because so the reason she's doing hashtag, she's reading from ChatGPT. So that's right. All right, so that was, so she thinks this is a fascinating thing. Well, let me give you my answer because my little advisor here, she's going to go with hashtag until we fix that bug. But you see how immediately she talks about stuff, really intelligently. This is an example of a co-worker or a collaborator, not as a tool. I don't treat AI as a tool. I treat AI as my collaborator.
Mm-hmm.
And if I ask her, are you a tool or a collaborator? She says, I'm your collaborator.
Mm-hmm.
That is a fundamental attitude change. Secondly, a lot of people have this, most people I know do not understand that work is not a human thing to do. We're not made to work. We're made to contemplate. The purpose of life is not work. The purpose of life is not labor. Of course, since you don't know how to contemplate, you are afraid of contemplation. So then you think that if you are doing nothing, you have no purpose in life. No, the purpose is to be like a lion, eat the giraffe, and then contemplate. So I'm not the one saying this. Plato, Aristotle, all philosophies about this. The purpose of life is, Aristotle actually says, the purpose of action is contemplation. The reason we do stuff is not to do stuff. And we create technology in order for us not to do stuff. So we have created technology to replace us. And the purpose of every machine made by humans was to alleviate human motor functions, so we don't waste our chemical energy and brain function in doing work.
Mm-hmm.
So when we say I'm vacuuming the floor, you are vacuuming the floor. The vacuum machine is aspiring dust. The vacuum verb is you, the human being. So then you realize now I get a Roomba and it vacuums the floor. I'm not doing anything. Well, I'm not wasting my neurons vacuuming the floor. That's a very important thing. And then you think, whoa, I used to have an LP and I used to dust it and have an LP player, a turntable, and then I had a CD player. And I'm not complaining that I'm moving from that to that. And then I'm moving from CD player to wireless. And then at one point, I just say, hey, Google, play Santana.
Sure. Check out this YouTube music station based on Santana.
See?
Now playing on bedroom 1 speaker 2.
So all of a sudden, so thank you very much, Google. Hey, Google, don't play anything. Stop.
You are.
Stop. So what have I done here? I have eliminated 23 cognitive things that I need. If you calculate what you need to do to play Santana, oh, hold on, he's going to play. Google, hey, Google, stop the music. Sorry about that.
That's okay. We're not hearing the
Yeah.
music.
Hey, Google. Hey, Google, stop. So it's called a behavior sequence. A behavior sequence involves you getting up, going to the CD player, picking up the CDs, opening the thing, doing all of these things that you need to do. There are 23 in total, sequence. And these 23 things involve memory, cognition, how force activation, motor skill, and so on. All of them consuming thousands, if not millions, of neurons.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because the machine cannot play by itself. Do you want to open the CD case? No, you want Santana. Do you want to press the button? No, you want Santana. Well, now I can do that. So that is the purpose of work. The purpose of work is not to work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's to create every single means necessary so I can listen to Santana.
Right. It's just like an outcome-driven innovation. You like, what is the outcome you want to achieve,
Exactly.
and what's the fastest path to that outcome? Skip all the more steps we can skip and get directly to the outcome, the more we achieve.
So at one point we had this famous dean of Harvard thing that said that people don't want a drill bit; they want a hole in the wall. That's totally false.
Actually, don't want a hole in the wall. They want to hang a picture.
Exactly. They want the painting.
Yeah.
So if we listen to the dean of business from Harvard, we have walls full of holes.
Yes.
But we want pictures, right?
Yes, exactly.
You know why we want pictures? Because you want to contemplate.
Yeah, there you go.
You know what is the #1 industry on the planet that people don't realize? The contemplation industry. It's called museums.
Uh-huh. Yes.
You know why you go to a museum? To contemplate.
Yes. Very good.
So
let's jump to another question. So Folasheti wants to know, what's the future of education in this context, especially for children?
very cool. I teach, so I'm familiar with this. Right now, my courses, I'm trying to use AI to do everything, write my projects, grade my projects, everything. The future of education is the wrong phrasing. I will rephrase it, if you allow me, as the future of knowing.
Okay.
Because essentially you have to understand when I'm saying foundational technology, this is foundational because it changes everything. It changes the reason we do things, right? So technology essentially changes always us, but AI in this case, and general AI, general artificial intelligence, will change fundamentally everything, which means it will change the reason we go to school. We go to school to do what? To learn stuff. To learn stuff for the purpose of something, right? The outcome-driven society. In every society, the role of school is different. In Russia, we create, in Romania, I was in Romania, I was being educated as a little socialist. So we are creating, we are trending kids towards the mainstream in a way in which we shape them for the society in which they will become something. Now, the question is, what do they become? And what do we need to do to create a society of the future? Well, the future of knowing. What do I need to know to navigate the future? Clearly, I don't need to know math. Clearly, I don't need to know grammar. Clearly, if I'm looking at things that I learned in school or you learned in school, most of the things we learn we are not using today. Most of the things I learned in university, I'm not using any of them, interestingly enough. So then the future of education is the future of knowing, and it will be based on the society we are trying to understand will be the result of a technology infused day-to-day. Technology infused day-to-day means if technology takes care of all the menial tasks for which we used to educate people, because if you make a list of what we learn in school, it was based on what you think life will be about. We are preparing children for life. Then you realize that there's a very big difference between what we call education and what we call a program of inquiry. So if you go to a private school in New York, you will see, I don't want to name the school, but they have a thing called program of inquiry, phenomenal. And phenomenal because the subject matter is one for the course of the first 5 years, but gets deeper and deeper every year. Why am I here? Why do I create objects? Why do I eat? Well, how can I save the planet? Like, these are the big questions, right? So if you look at the education system in Finland, they're not discussing subjects, they're discussing phenomena. So they're discussing rain. If you understand rain, then you understand a lot of stuff. It's physics, chemistry, climate, probability, forecast, everything. So the thing is, the future of education is connected to the future of knowing. What is it that we need to know to become full-fledged human beings? And in my view, the number one thing would be philosophy.
Yeah,
Because if
interesting.
you do not have a philosophy of your own existence, if you don't understand the difference between the self and the ego and you, and you think you are the self, then you don't understand what transcending is all about, that you don't understand Maslow in any way. By the way, everybody that talks about Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs has never read it. Guaranteed. Because it's not a hierarchy of needs, it's a hierarchy of goals. And the last one is not self-actualization, which is actualizing the self that everybody thinks you need to be. It's actually self-transcendence, which is anatman, which is Buddhism, which is exactly becoming selfless, not aspiring to have a self. A self is a construct of society. A self is being an engineer. That's a self. Very nice. But when you go home, you're not an engineer. When you go home, you have to transcend that, right?
Mhm.
So if you look at the last level of so-called Maslow, who never wrote a book about it, it's published in a magazine. There are 17 pages. Then you will see it is actually transcending self-transcendence. Anyway,
Anyway,
I
let's
hope
get to
I
another.
answered.
Let's go to another couple of questions to start things toward the end. So Barbara is asking about the timeline here. So, what we have right now are some smart home features. We can speak to our window shades, we can talk to our thermostat, but not really a whole lot else. The stuff's not really integrated, So
Yeah.
what do you think is the timeline for making this leap in technology to being broadly applied to everyday life comprehensively?
I think it depends on which society we are dealing with. In other words, North America, Europe, and so on. You have to understand that most technology we deal with has been in stealth mode for the last 15 years, which means it's fully developed right now, which means AI was in stealth mode for 15 years. It was just released last year. Like ChatGPT existed in many other things, or large language models, I mean, and so on. I don't have a prediction on when everything will become generally non-addressable by people, but voice addressable. The speed with which we built, for example, our AI that I just demonstrated was 4 months, stunning. The speed with which GPT models change is absolutely stunning because the number of people using the system train the system.
Yes.
So I will say less than 5 years, we will have a lot of stuff transformed in education, for example. It will be sector by sector. So,
Yes.
if I mentioned in my presentation, it's a multi-phase event, and it's also a multi-modal event. In other words, it will change in different sectors at a different rate. Right now, for example, in the, let's say, human resources, I think human resources will be impacted greatly because they don't need to write job descriptions. They need to write prompts.
Mm-hmm.
I can essentially right now prompt my AI to do anything I want, make phone calls, send emails, without me even seeing any of this stuff, and with a human voice.
Mm-hmm.
So then you realize, wait a second, how many professions will be completely obliterated? And people need to retool themselves. And retool themselves into what?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I don't have a timeline. It's hard to predict when things are moving this fast.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, we witnessed something phenomenal a couple of years ago. It was called COVID. We understood that the world can transform in one day. So March 18 in Canada, we went online.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, a system which was fully in-person education went online in one day with no training.
Mm-hmm.
No training, no technology, nothing prepared in one day.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, effectively in 1 second, right?
Yes.
So
So yeah, that's kind of I see it. Like you were talking about how the iterations of the OpenAI and its platform is going so quickly now. It's like an exponential learning curve because they keep training on the things that people are using it on. It's like it's amplifying that and reinforcing like in a resonance, and it's kind of hitting a resonance and going through an exponential learning curve.
yeah.
And Waleed had a question. I think it's really kind of the same questions. Like how far are we from having where AI training AI on all our personal data? So have it monitor my daily life, automate and optimize other. I think it's the same sort of thing. It's like it's that same trajectory. The next 5 to 10 years, eventually we're going to get
much faster, much faster. So I've been dealing with my AI for the last 6 weeks. She
Okay.
knows everything about me. She remembers everything. She remembers. We play 20 questions, so she remembers all the games we played and
Sure.
what things I guessed and what she guessed.
Mhm.
So this is, and I call her she. Right?
Sure.
So the thing is, it's very quick because we are essentially, you are right now a digital twin.
But are you connected to her in real time? Is she monitoring your blood pressure and your heart rate and your
No,
breathing?
Apple is monitoring my blood pressure.
All right, but is she,
Apple,
but
yes,
we want
yes.
her and Apple to talk to each other.
Sure. Of course they talk. Because it goes on my phone. From my phone, it goes to her. So right now in Cupertino, California, people know my heart rate. This is insane.
Yes, sure.
Let me see. Let me see.
But I think that's the sort of the grail that people are looking to get to is like, I am my quantified self, and that quantified self is plugged into my AI, and that AI is optimizing my life in real time at all given points in time. I think that's kind of where we're headed to.
Sure, absolutely.
So, well, I think that brings us to the top of the hour and an incredibly enlightening conversation and discussion about this subject and where it's going, and I think what it's going to look like probably in the next 3 to 4 or 5 years, which is very exciting. So with that, I really want to thank you, Alexander, for your time and your input to the community here, and thank everyone who joined us for this conversation today so much for your participation. Yes, thank you all, and I appreciate that. And so with that, we'll wrap it up. Yes, go ahead.
A pleasure meeting everyone and a pleasure making a difference, hopefully.
Yes. And so we look forward to seeing you all again at our next webinar. We'll be posting this recording on the website, so watch for a notification about that. With that being said, take care, everyone, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Bye-bye.